You arrive in stillness, and here a gentle invitation awaits to hold more than a single future at once. You are asked to breathe with the cosmos, allowing breath to widen the space around intention without forcing an outcome. You are offered permission to sense multiple threads of possibility as luminous currents rather than burdens or frightening riddles. You may notice tension that wants a quick answer. This is normal and not a verdict on your capacity. You are not required to collapse into choice immediately. Spaciousness is a skill that can be practiced and strengthened. You are guided to receive curiosity as a steady lantern that lights options without igniting panic. You will learn to carry richness of possibility like a constellation, luminous and orienting rather than heavy. You are invited to imagine a field where many potential outcomes coexist like stars within a velvety sky, each possible and waiting. You can hold that image not as abstract science, but as a living metaphor for the choices and desires that hover around you. You might feel steadier by shifting from either a soar thinking toward and both spaciousness, where options are simultaneous rather than conflicting. You will be guided to sense how this state supports creativity, discovery, and the freedom to refine your heart's signal. You are encouraged to notice how fear sometimes collapses, possibilities too soon, driven by a need for certainty or safety. You are learning that curiosity softens the impulse to choose prematurely, allowing clearer direction to emerge from honest discernment. You are asked to let this concept land in the body as a gentle permission to explore. You are shown practical breath lines and inner postures that support holding without frantic collapse into the first visible option. You can anchor in steady breath, feel the ribcage expand, and allow thought to move like clouds rather than commands. You are told that acceptance of uncertainty is not resignation, but a deliberate stance of openness and refinement. You may notice sensations that signal anxiety. Naming them softly reduces their power and creates space for choice. You will practice distinguishing between urgency born of habit and intuition born of alignment, and this distinction will become a compass. You are guided to treat possibilities as experiments rather than destinies, yielding curiosity over pressure. You are invited to remember that each breath recalibrates capacity to hold more of what matters. You are introduced to the forces that hurry collapse: fear, social pressure, habit, and the yearning for immediate relief. You can recognize how old survival patterns rush to resolve ambiguity because familiarity feels safe and muscular, even when limiting. You are encouraged to observe these impulses without judgment, as historical echoes that no longer need to steer the present. You will learn that collapsing prematurely often leads to misaligned choices that require course correction later, which can be more costly than patient refinement. You are reminded that collapse is not failure, but information. It reveals what feels urgent, what is unresolved, and where boundaries are needed. You are guided to use this information to create gentler, wiser responses that preserve possibility. You may begin to sense why cultivating spaciousness is a foundational practice for conscious creation. You are offered a map that moves from awareness to holding, refinement, calibration, and intentional collapse into desired outcomes. You can visualize the map as a spiral of learning rather than a straight line, with loops of practice and new clarity unfolding naturally. You will be guided through techniques that balance poetic imagination with grounded steps, supporting both inner alignment and outer action. You are encouraged to commit to curiosity and compassionate discipline as companions on the path. You will be taught tools to slow reactive collapse and to accelerate deliberate collapse when clarity and resonance are strong. You are invited to notice how each chapter of this journey scaffolds the next, creating increasing ease and precision. You may now step forward, knowing that this process is meant to be practiced gently and persistently. You are gently reminded that scientific language here is poetic metaphor, meant to illuminate inner mechanics rather than substitute for physics. You can use quantum ideas as tools that translate into psychological and energetic practice for life change. You are encouraged to take what feels useful and leave what does not, integrating insights into personal experience rather than abstract argument. You will notice that metaphors allow imagination to bridge the known and the not yet known, creating fertile ground for choice. You are invited to treat this language as a map that guides inner posture toward clarity and courage. You can allow curiosity to be the translator that turns metaphor into lived skill. You are guided to keep an open, discerning mind as this exploration unfolds. You are introduced to the idea that attention acts like a lens, shaping which possibilities brighten and which fade into background noise. You can practice directing attention with compassion, choosing focus that nourishes growth rather than fear. You are guided to notice where attention habitually falls and to reallocate it toward what aligns with your deepest intention. You will learn how steady observation clarifies desire and supports intentional collapse when aligned action is ready. You are invited to use attention as a skillful tool, not as a weapon against uncertainty. You may begin to treat attention as a deliberate art, one that can be refined through breath and daily rituals. You are reminded that the quality of attention colors the landscape of possibility itself. You are invited to distinguish probabilities, which describe likelihood, from possibilities, which describe openness and potential without judgment. You can use probabilities as useful instruments for planning, while allowing possibilities to keep creativity alive. You are guided to avoid collapsing the imaginative field into probability-driven fear, which often narrows outcomes prematurely. You will learn how to layer practical planning with expansive imagining, creating a balanced approach that honors both resourcefulness and wonder. You are encouraged to hold both levels simultaneously, letting probabilities inform logistics while possibilities fuel emergence. You are reminded that discernment, rather than fear, is the best path to intelligently collapse. You may begin practicing seeing both probabilities and possibilities as parts of a larger creative ecology. You are shown that intention is less a demand and more a tuning of energy toward a preferred frequency, aligning thought, feeling, and behavior. You can refine intention by clarifying language, embodying feeling, and taking small, consistent steps that match the desired outcome. You are guided to feel the intention in the body, anchoring it beyond conceptual wishfulness. You will notice that when intention resonates across inner systems, choices become less frantic and more magnetic. You are invited to treat intention as an ongoing conversation between desire and lived action, responsive and evolving. You may discover that tuning practice strengthens the signal that guides deliberate collapse. You are encouraged to test intentions gently through embodied experiments rather than rigid expectation. You are encouraged to root exploration in curiosity rather than coerced outcome, creating ethical soil for intention to grow without harm. You can ask how desires support well-being for self and others and refine them with compassionate intelligence. You are guided to prefer questions that expand perspective over directives that constrict possibility prematurely. You will learn that curiosity protects against dogmatic attachment and opens doors to unexpected, aligned opportunities. You are invited to practice curiosity as a daily ethic that keeps choices flexible and creative. You may notice that this stance reduces panic and invites wiser collapses when clarity arrives. You are reminded that curiosity is both a spiritual orientation and a pragmatic tool. You are invited to see emotions not as obstacles, but as precise indicators of alignment or misalignment with desire and value. You can practice listening to feelings as guidance, noticing where joy contracts and where curiosity expands the field. You are guided to map emotional patterns without self-judgment, letting sensation provide data rather than dictate destiny. You will learn techniques to soothe aversive states and amplify resonant ones, creating a more navigable inner climate. You are encouraged to treat emotion as an honest instrument that refines intention and timing. You may begin to feel empowerment in naming emotional textures and choosing responses befitting deeper aims. You are reminded that refining emotional skill supports sustainable, deliberate collapse. You are guided to examine beliefs as formatting code that channels attention into recurring outcomes and habitual collapses. You can gently question inherited narratives that rush towards safety or diminish possibility, noticing their origin and currency. You are invited to cultivate beliefs that expand capacity rather than constrict it, choosing stories that support exploration and responsible creation. You will be introduced to simple cognitive shifts that reframe limiting assumptions without forcing unrealistic optimism. You are encouraged to do small belief tests, aligning action with revised assumptions to generate feedback and confidence. You may experience relief as new narratives prove more generative and spacious. You are reminded that beliefs can be revised with evidence, ritual, and patient practice. You are shown how subtle energetic states attract contexts and people that resonate with their frequency, shaping the landscape of possibility over time. You can learn to notice when energy matches clarity and when it surrenders to fear, using this awareness to decide whether to collapse or continue refining. You are guided to cultivate coherence between heart, mind, and action, so energy becomes a faithful ally rather than an unpredictable force. You will be offered practices to steady energy, such as embodied breathwork and micro-movements that align posture with intention. You're invited to regard energetic alignment as an ongoing maintenance skill that influences outcomes materially and relationally. You may begin to measure traction by the subtle increase in synchronicity and ease around chosen directions. You are reminded that energy is never trivial. It colors the entire creative process. You are encouraged to build internal and external safety to reduce panic-driven collapse, recognizing that felt safety allows for bolder possibility holding. You can create rituals, boundaries, and trusted practices that anchor presence when uncertainty arises. You are guided to notice where environments or relationships erode safety and where they nurture it, making practical adjustments with care. You will learn that safety does not mean avoidance, but a platform from which risk becomes intentional and chosen rather than reactive. You are invited to enlist steady micro-habits like consistent sleep or supportive conversations to create resilience. You may find that as safety increases, the need to settle quickly diminishes and more refined choices appear. You are reminded that safety supports both exploration and responsible collapse. You are given simple integration practices to harmonize emotion, belief, and energy into coherent direction that supports deliberate collapse when ready. You can use short daily rituals, journaling prompts, breathwork pauses, and alignment checks that build cumulative clarity over weeks. You are guided to pair inner adjustments with small outer actions that test resonance and generate feedback, creating virtuous cycles of learning. You will learn to honor rest and reflection as part of productivity, not its enemy, allowing deeper desirability to unfold. You are invited to design practices that feel sustainable rather than heroic, cultivating steady progress. You may begin to notice the compounding effect of integration, where small refinements produce clearer outcomes. You are reminded that integration is the ground from which intentional manifestation becomes reliable. You are invited to begin with breath as the foundational anchor for holding multiple futures. Breath steadies attention and calms reactive collapse. You can practice slow, lengthened exhalations that signal safety to the nervous system and expand tolerance for ambiguity. You are guided to use breath pauses before decisions, creating a habitual gap that reduces impulsive closure. You will learn a simple pattern of inhaling curiosity and exhaling contraction, rewiring the body toward inquiry over haste. You are encouraged to schedule breath checks during stressful moments, turning them into brief recentering rituals. You may notice that smaller choices begin to feel less urgent as breath practice accumulates. You are reminded that breath is always available and transforms the quality of possibility holding. You are introduced to the practice of creating a curated waitlist of preferred options that allows you to hold many invites without immediate selection. You can list several resonant possibilities and include brief notes about why each option matters, cultivating clarity without pressure. You are guided to revisit this list with set intervals, gaining perspective and noticing which threads grow warmer or cooler over time. You will learn that deliberate waiting is different from paralysis. It is an active observation that honors refinement. You are invited to use tangible tools, notes, boards, or digital indexes that make processes of holding visible and manageable. You may find that patterns emerge naturally, making collapse into a chosen path easier and more confident. You are reminded that structured waiting preserves spaciousness and supports wise decisions. You are encouraged to run small, low-risk experiments to test resonance and gather evidence for decisions without committing fully. You can design micro-actions that sample each possibility, learning quickly which threads carry more life and which dissipate. You are guided to approach experiments as playful inquiries rather than definitive trials, keeping pressure low and curiosity high. You will learn to treat outcomes as data points that refine intention rather than absolute judgments on worthiness. You are invited to celebrate learning irrespective of whether an experiment leads to a long-term path. You may discover that micro-experiments accelerate clarity and reduce anxiety by converting abstraction into lived feedback. You are reminded that action equals information, and information informs wiser collapse. You are invited to use visualization as a clarifying tool that aligns feeling and image, creating a stronger signal for choice. You can hold rich, sensory images of possible lives and notice which scenes elicit embodied warmth, ease, and expansion. You are guided to focus on details, texture, sound, rhythm that resonate most, letting those specifics guide refinement. You will learn to distinguish aspirational mirages from aligned visions by tracking the nervous system's responses. You are encouraged to create short visualization rituals that become quick alignment checks during decision points. You may find that repeated visualization strengthens intuitive clarity and shortens the discernment timeline. You are reminded that imagery is most powerful when coupled with small, aligned actions. you are offered simple anchor rituals that signal intentional presence and remind the nervous system of safety while holding many options. You can create tactile or sensory anchors, specific scents, gestures, or objects that bring you back to a calm center when doubt rises. You are guided to pair each anchor with an affirmation or short phrase that reinforces curiosity and patient discernment. You will learn how consistent rituals shorten the distance between uncertainty and wise action by providing automatic recentering cues. You are invited to test anchors in everyday contexts so they become reliable supports under pressure. You may notice that anchors transform reactive collapse into steady calibration over time. You are reminded that rituals are not superstition but embodied commitments to presence. You are asked to explore what feels deep and steady versus what is reactive or culturally conditioned, cultivating an ability to differentiate heart desire. You can sense the difference by noticing bodily resonance. Does the thought open the chest, steady breath, and invite time, or does it tighten and demand quick proof? You are guided to slow down and allow the deeper impulse to speak without interruption from cognitive noise. You will learn practices to root desire in values and long-term flourishing rather than immediate reward. You are invited to treat this process as gentle excavation rather than dramatic revelation, uncovering what matters through patient attention. You may discover that what endures is often quieter and more luminous than initial cravings suggest. You are reminded that honoring true desire makes collapse more aligned and less fraught. You are offered the practice of non-attachment, not as indifference, but as freedom from frantic grasping that short-circuits clarity. You can practice recognizing desire while letting go of desperate clinging to a single pathway, improving the ability to choose wisely. You are guided to cultivate steady love for possibility without demanding immediate fulfillment, letting time reveal alignment. You will learn that non-attachment preserves creative capacity and prevents regret-driven choices. You are invited to test non-attachment through small releases, noticing the relief that follows. You may find that letting go temporarily often opens more expansive outcomes than rigid holding. You are reminded that non-attachment strengthens inner sovereignty and lowers the pressure to collapse under fear. You are guided to clarify core values so choices can be evaluated against a steady internal compass rather than shifting preferences. You can create a short list of essential principles such as freedom, contribution, intimacy, or creativity and test options against them. You are encouraged to allow values to be living guides that translate into practical red lines and open doors. You will learn methods to rank or prioritize values when tension arises, making trade-offs conscious rather than accidental. You are invited to integrate values with logistics, ensuring that desired outcomes are both soulful and feasible. You may notice that clarity about values simplifies collapse and reduces second-guessing later. You are reminded that values are the grammar that shapes meaningful selection. You are asked to test possibilities for long-term fit by envisioning life 5 years from now and observing which choices feel sustainable and nourishing. You can use future casting exercises to sense whether the selected path aligns with desired rhythms, relationships, and growth. You are guided to interrogate scenarios for probable trade-offs and to seek options that minimize costly corrections. You will learn to weigh short-term gains against lasting well-being with more clarity and less hurry. You are invited to imagine practical rhythms, work cadence, social patterns, and self-care that support flourishing on the chosen path. You may find that options that look attractive now lose luster under long-term scrutiny, while others prove quietly durable. You are reminded that long-term fit preserves energy, creativity, and joy. You are invited to distinguish healthy commitment, which is flexible and intentional, from rigidity, which resists necessary adaptation and blindsided learning. You can practice committing to values and direction while permitting course corrections as new information arrives. You are guided to set review points and accountability structures that keep commitment alive without calcifying it. You will learn that commitment made with openness leads to more reliable outcomes than brittle vows from fear or ego. You are encouraged to celebrate disciplined consistency while remaining devoted to truth and responsiveness. You may notice that this balanced commitment reduces panic and supports wiser collapses when alignment deepens. You are reminded that resilient commitment is both steadfast and supple. You are guided to recognize internal and external signals that indicate readiness for deliberate collapse into a chosen path. You can observe alignment markers such as emotional steadiness, repeatable positive feedback from experiments, and logistical feasibility converging. You are encouraged to check for congruence across heart, mind, and environment before committing deeply. You will learn to avoid single-signal decision-making, preferring clusters of evidence that point toward coherence. You are invited to use time as an ally, allowing signals to accumulate naturally when possible. You may notice that when multiple systems affirm the same direction, collapse becomes less fearful and more confident. You are reminded that readiness is a threshold stacked by many small confirmations. You are shown indicators that reliably predict successful collapse. Repeated ease in imagining outcomes, consistent small wins, and trusted external feedback that resonates with embodied clarity. You can differentiate transient enthusiasm from sustained attraction by tracking reactions over weeks rather than hours. You are guided to ask whether the choice preserves energy, aligns with values, and invites growth rather than depletion. You will learn that trustworthy indicators often appear as subtle gravitational pulls rather than loud proclamations. You are invited to prioritize systems coherence over single emotional highs when deciding. You may find that leaning into cluster evidence reduces regrets and increases momentum after the collapse. You are reminded that indicators are best used as companions to practical preparation. You are encouraged to notice patterns of false starts, enthusiastic initial leaps that rapidly lose steam when tested in daily life, and to learn from them rather than judge them harshly. You can use micro-experiments to detect durability early and to prevent expensive, energy-draining commitments. You are guided to ask how sustainable the chosen path feels under ordinary conditions, not only in peak inspiration. You will learn to establish minimal viability checks that reveal misalignment quickly and kindly. You are invited to hold a culture of iteration rather than perfection, allowing course corrections without dramatic self-reproach. You may discover that fewer false starts emerge as clarity practices compound. You are reminded that wise collapses are built on robust testing and real-world feedback. You are asked to respect intuition as a synthesizing faculty that integrates subtle data from multiple systems into a felt sense of rightness. You can strengthen intuition by combining it with empirical tests, not by relying on it exclusively in high-stakes situations. You are guided to notice the qualitative difference between fearful insistence and calm, embodied knowing, using that distinction to inform timing. You will learn practices to sharpen intuitive perception, such as rest, reflective journaling, and sensory quieting. You are invited to balance intuition with reason, creating a partnership that minimizes both impulsivity and analysis paralysis. You may find that intuition becomes more trustworthy with disciplined evidence gathering and pattern recognition. You are reminded that intuition alone is not aimless mysticism but refined practical sense when trained. You are offered practical checklists to assess readiness, alignment across values, test evidence, resource feasibility, and emotional steadiness under mild stress. You can use short frameworks that require a majority of these points to be present before committing heavily, reducing costly misfires. You are guided to create personalized thresholds that fit the scale of the decision, differentiating between micro and macro commitments. You will learn the value of contingency planning and soft launch strategies to contain risk while enabling bold steps. You are invited to use checklists as supportive tools that cultivate confidence without eliminating mystery. You may find that pragmatic structure frees the imagination to operate more boldly within calculated safety. You are reminded that methodical readiness evaluation preserves both courage and wisdom. You are invited to design a simple collapse ritual that formalizes intent and signals to the body and mind that a choice has been made. You can select sensory elements, sound, scent, a written pledge, or a physical action that carry personal meaning and mark transition. You are guided to keep rituals short and repeatable rather than elaborate spectacles that create dependency on perfection. You will learn that ritual binds decision to habit, making follow-through easier and reducing second-guessing. You are invited to pair ritual with a plan of immediate next steps to translate symbolic commitment into practical momentum. You may find that ritual coherence increases conviction and makes the chosen path feel both sacred and actionable. You are reminded that ceremony is an ancient technology of human psychology useful for modern life. You are guided through the critical first 72 hours after a collapse, a window when patterns either begin to root or dissolve under old habits. You can create simple, high-impact actions in this period, calendared commitments, accountability check-ins, and micro-habits that reinforce momentum. You are encouraged to remove friction and create supportive scaffolding that protects initial progress without suffocating flexibility. You will learn to expect and normalize small slips, treating them as learning opportunities rather than defeat. You are invited to celebrate early wins, however minor, to harvest confidence and biochemical reinforcement. You may observe that intentional structure in this window disproportionately affects long-term durability. You are reminded that the beginning shapes trajectory more than spontaneous inspiration alone. You are invited to design accountability systems that are compassionate rather than punitive, helping resilience grow without shaming setbacks. You can choose partners, mentors, or tools that emphasize learning, curiosity, and steady persistence over rigid enforcement. You are guided to set clear check-ins and metrics that matter, keeping measurement meaningful and manageable. You will learn how to craft agreements that include recovery plans for inevitable challenges, reducing drama and increasing recovery speed. You are encouraged to keep accountability aligned with values, so it supports long-term integration rather than short-term impression. You may find that gentle accountability increases consistency and reduces the emotional reactivity that undermines chosen courses. You are reminded that community support is most powerful when it invites restoration. You are asked to bridge ritual with sustainable routines that embed the collapse into daily life, turning high-energy commitment into steady habit. You can break down big decisions into repeatable micro-actions, each chosen to maintain alignment and momentum. You are guided to use environment design, arranging space, tools, and schedules to reduce friction and invite desired behaviors effortlessly. You will learn that routine is the vessel that carries aspiration through ordinary days, making extraordinary outcomes habitual. You are invited to experiment with timing and frequency until the routine feels natural and resonant rather than forced. You may notice that rituals become meaningful bookends to routines, renewing intention periodically. You are reminded that the marriage of ceremony and habit produces durable transformation. You are provided with strategies to manage doubt that often appears after a decisive collapse, normalizing inquiry without capitulation to fear. You can create quick recalibration rituals, a breath check, a values alignment question, and a short evidence review to dissolve rumination and restore confidence. You are guided to separate productive recalibration from compulsive second-guessing by timing reflections and limiting them to scheduled slots. You will learn to treat doubts as signals for specific investigations rather than global retractions of choice. You are invited to keep a running log of adjustments and wins that proves forward motion despite transient uncertainty. You may find that structured doubt management reduces energy spent on anxiety and preserves creative capacity. You are reminded that doubt is part of the terrain, not the end of the road. You are encouraged to communicate holding multiple futures with clarity, honesty, and compassion in relationships, reducing pressure and misunderstandings. You can share inner attunement without demanding immediate consensus, inviting co-creators into a collaborative exploration. You are guided to set expectations about timelines, experimentation, and the possibility of change, creating shared safety. You will learn phrases and frameworks that normalize curiosity and avoid binary ultimatums that force premature collapse. You are invited to co-design experiments with partners that test resonance while preserving autonomy. You may find that this approach strengthens trust and invites unexpected alignment. You are reminded that relational clarity preserves possibility and honors mutual agency. You are shown how healthy boundaries protect possibility, holding by preventing external anxiety from hijacking internal processes. You can practice articulating needs and limits in ways that invite cooperation rather than provoke guilt. You are guided to negotiate timelines, resources, and commitments with respect for both personal refinement and shared goals. You will learn that boundaries are invitations to responsible engagement, not punitive walls that restrict intimacy. You are invited to co-create agreements that include review points and adaptation clauses, making collaboration sustainable. You may discover that stronger boundaries actually deepen connection by clarifying capacity and expectation. You are reminded that boundaries are the scaffolding that allow delicate possibilities to be held safely. You are encouraged to adopt co-creation practices that bring multiple perspectives into a generative field, keeping possibilities plural while cultivating mutual alignment. You can use shared visioning sessions, small joint experiments, and reflective pauses to ensure collaborative movement is conscious and adaptive. You are guided to honor dissenting data as useful information that refines collective choices rather than threats to unity. You will learn to structure collaboration with roles and feedback loops that reduce friction and increase learning speed. You are invited to celebrate small convergences as signs of systems aligning, not as final resolutions. You may find that co-creation deepens both creativity and accountability within partnerships. You are reminded that shared possibility requires both autonomy and attunement. You are guided to navigate situations where collaborators have different timing, preferences, or risk tolerance with diplomacy and practical invention. You can map overlapping interests and identify divergence points where staggered commitments or parallel experiments are useful. You are encouraged to set trial periods, phased involvement, or flexible milestones that respect differing paces. You will learn methods to preserve relationship quality while allowing individual exploration, reducing the binary pressure to synchronize prematurely. You are invited to practice compassionate curiosity about why timelines differ, discovering underlying values that inform negotiation. You may notice that honoring pace differences creates richer, more resilient collaborations. You are reminded that timing diversity is an asset when managed with mutual respect. You are offered ideas for collective collapse rituals that align group energy around agreed choices, providing shared closure and momentum. You can design simple gatherings, digital ceremonies, or short written declarations that mark collaborative commitments. You are guided to include space for reflection, learning, and celebration, so the group honors both departure and arrival. You will learn how collective ritual creates accountability and shared memory that supports sustained action. You are invited to rotate facilitation roles so collective ownership grows with time. You may find that collaborative ceremonies deepen trust and make shared pathways feel sacred and practical simultaneously. You are reminded that collective collapse requires inclusion, clarity, and the willingness to adapt together. You are prepared to encounter resistance as an expected part of holding possibility, coming from internal habits, social dynamics, and structural constraints. You can reframe resistance as a signpost pointing toward necessary adjustments rather than as a moral failure. You are guided to map likely friction points before deep commitments, creating proactive mitigation strategies. You will learn to distinguish between friction that refines and friction that signals fundamental misfit, using different response modes for each. You are invited to practice curiosity about the roots of resistance, asking what the pushback is actually protecting or preventing. You may find that early anticipation simplifies recovery and reduces reactive collapse. You are reminded that resistance is informative and often invites more elegant solutions. You are encouraged to evaluate persistence against evolving evidence, distinguishing between stubbornness and wise tenacity that honors long-term value. You can set metrics for persistence, time, learning, and outcomes that justify continued investment versus pivoting. You are guided to ask whether persistence is nourishing growth or merely reinforcing sunk costs. You will learn heuristics that protect against both premature quitting and pathological rigidity, balancing courage with flexibility. You are invited to seek counsel and fresh perspectives when persistence becomes emotionally charged, widening the lens for better judgment. You may discover that the right persistence often looks like steady, adaptive effort rather than dramatic perseverance. You are reminded that persistence, applied intelligently, is one of the most powerful creative forces. You are taught to recognize pivot signals, diminishing returns, persistent mismatch with values, and clear negative trends despite diligent effort, and to pivot with dignity and purpose. You can create criteria for change that reduce emotional reactivity and support strategic redirection. You are guided to treat pivots as data-driven creativity rather than defeat, preserving lessons and relationships as assets. You will learn how to design graceful exit plans that preserve reputation, resources, and momentum for next steps. You are invited to reframe pivoting as a reallocation of attention toward greater fit and impact. You may notice that thoughtful pivots often accelerate progress by releasing wasted energy, You are reminded that adaptability is a core strength of conscious creators. You are encouraged to practice repair when choices create harm or unexpected strain, using accountability frameworks that restore trust and clarity. You can design repair conversations that center listening, responsibility, and practical remediation steps to rebuild alignment. You are guided to combine repair with reaffirmation of values, to recalibrate shared commitment and direction. You will learn methods to keep repair proportional, timely, and focused on tangible next steps. You are invited to celebrate when repair succeeds as a sign of relational resilience and mutual learning. You may find that repair deepens systems and relationships, making future collaborations richer. You are reminded that responsible repair is vital to sustainable manifestation. You are offered resilience practices, regular rest, reflective reviews, and community support that fortify capacity to hold possibility through difficulty. You can create rhythms that allow regeneration after setbacks and intentional reflection to harvest hard-won insight. You are guided to diversify support networks so recovery is not dependent on a single pillar. You will learn micro-recoveries such as 5-minute resets and weekly integration sessions that prevent erosion of confidence. You are invited to view resilience as an investment that compounds rather than as heroic toughness that risks burnout. You may notice that consistent resilience practices reduce panic and make wiser collapses more sustainable over time. You are reminded that resilient systems are generous to growth and kind in struggle. You are invited to adopt daily alignment habits that consolidate the lessons of holding possibility into sustainable life patterns. You can select brief morning and evening practices, breath anchors, value checks, and micro-experiments that accumulate clarity over time. You are guided to treat these habits as gentle rather than punitive, integrating them where they enhance life rather than complicate it. You will learn that small, consistent habits create neural scaffolding that supports deliberate collapse when the moment calls. You are encouraged to track progress in compassionate ways, noting trends more than isolated failures. You may discover that alignment becomes effortless when habitually tended, turning intention into lived reality. You are reminded that daily practice is the soil of mastery. You are asked to perform seasonal reviews that measure where possibilities have expanded, contracted, or transformed, creating mid-course calibration points. You can structure reviews with questions about joy, growth, learned constraints, and the quality of relationships involved in chosen paths. You are guided to use these reviews to prune commitments, reaffirm values, and design upcoming micro-experiments. You will learn that seasonal reflection prevents accumulation of drift and supports intentional evolution. You are invited to celebrate emergent patterns and to plan adjustments from an empowered stance. You may find that seasonal reviews renew purpose and reduce anxiety by creating predictable recalibration rhythms. You are reminded that periodic pausing is an act of stewardship for long-term manifestation. You are encouraged to cultivate mentorship and community that reflects the level of practice desired, surrounding yourself with peers who hold possibility with skill and compassion. You can seek out people who model wise collapse and generous curiosity, learning not only technique but mature orientation. You are guided to contribute back, sharing lessons and creating communities that lift collective capacity. You will learn how reciprocal relationships accelerate growth through feedback, modeling, and shared experiments. You are invited to balance independent refinement with communal learning, allowing both to inform choices. You may discover that mentorship shortens painful learning curves and deepens sustainable mastery. You are reminded that no path of mastery is meant to be solitary. You are asked to consider the legacy of conscious possibility holding, how choices ripple into communities, ecosystems, and future generations. You can evaluate whether desired outcomes contribute to broader flourishing and take responsibility for unintended consequences. You are guided to expand the moral imagination beyond self-interest, integrating stewardship into the collapse process. You will learn to weigh impact and sustainability alongside personal fulfillment when making long-term commitments. You're invited to design projects and lives that balance personal creativity with ethical care for others and the planet. You may find that this broadened lens deepens meaning and reduces the narrowness of rushed, self-centered choices. You are reminded that mastery includes contribution. You are invited to cultivate devotion not in a single object sense, but as a tender reverence for the unfolding mystery of life and possibility. You can practice humility, gratitude, and attentive delight that keep ego-driven panic from collapsing futures prematurely. You are guided to keep curiosity and tenderness as lifelong companions, celebrating both progress and the inevitable unknown. You will learn that steadiness of heart is the clearest indicator of sustainable mastery, producing choices that are generous, wise, and durable. You are invited to hold practice as a sacred craft, refined over time with patience and humor. You may discover that the final mastery is not control, but the graceful art of presence within abundance. You are reminded that living masterfully is a continuous, joyous apprenticeship,